Hi everyone, welcome back to the Daily Knitter Knitting Podcast. My name is Tiffany. It has been quite a while since I have had time to film a full podcast episode, but I'm happy to be back now. For those of you who don't know, I have a 7-month-old baby boy and he is just now starting to consolidate his naps. So if you didn't know, babies around the 4 to 6 month mark basically start taking half-hour naps here and there, and it's not until they get older that they start to consolidate to like an hour and a half, and hence me not really having time to sit down and film because when he's awake I'm with him. So anyways, that's why it's been a while, but I'm glad to be back. And in the meantime, during postpartum, I was able to complete 2 sweaters, which I'm really proud of. And now I have 2 cast-ons as well that I'm slowly working through, and I'm going to share them with you all today. The first sweater that I have completed is my heart chain sweater from Mayo. And it's an all over cabled sweater. This is my first ever completed all over cable sweater project. And I picked this pattern because of the heart motif. I really liked it. I also liked the middle panel motif and all of the different braided details. And this actually, I feel like I saw it on some YouTubers list or something, but there haven't been a ton of projects completed on Ravelry, at least that I could see, of this sweater, but I just love the motif so much I decided to go for it. It doesn't have the most sizes. I think it only goes from it goes from like S to 2XL, so it's like small, medium, large, XL, 2XL, so it's only 5 sizes. I will say the small already is meant to be pretty oversized, so in that sense, I guess like more people could technically fit it, but just be aware of that if you're looking to knit this pattern. The yarn that I chose is Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino in the color Dusty Banana, and I think that's such a perfect name for this yarn color because it really just reminds you of a dusty banana. And when I was choosing the yarn for this project, I did want to go with a lighter yarn because I wanted the stitches to really pop with all the cabling, but I didn't want to go for a white because I have a all white cabled sweater that I bought. I think it was like from Marshalls or something. So I just figured for my first knitted piece, I didn't want it to be white. I wanted it to be a different color. And I have not worn yellow in a really long time. I used to avoid it a lot because I have like a yellowy olive skin tone and I always thought yellow just wouldn't look good on me, but I actually think this dustier yellow color looks really good, and I'm glad I ended up choosing this color for this piece. I think the cables all really pop really well. Now for the sizing, I did actually knit a size up and I decided to do the size medium because I really wanted to be a super chunky oversized sweater. And if you couldn't already tell from the photos that I've inserted of me wearing this, it is absolutely not oversized, and I truly don't know how or why. The gauge for the Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino is 18 stitches on a 4.5 millimeter needle, and my knitting must have just gotten so much tighter in postpartum than it was before pregnancy that I think I'm getting like a 23 stitch gauge with a 4.5 needle, which to me is like shocking because pre-pregnancy I was a pretty by the book gauge knitter. Like if a yarn says whatever gauge it's supposed to be on whatever needle, I pretty much can hit that gauge. So I don't know what was going on. Maybe I was just knitting really tight. And I do know cables, they tend to shrink a little, and maybe that was the case, that the cabling just makes all the stitches a little tighter. But yeah, even with knitting the size up on a medium, I'm pretty sure my knitted completed piece is even smaller than the small size. So kind of a bummer, but I obviously will still wear it and I think it still looks good. It's just not quite what I wanted. And you know, that's on me for not gauge swatching, but I just really didn't think my knitting tension changed at all, but it clearly did. So now knowing that all the next pieces that I've cast on, I've adjusted for that, and hopefully my next all over sweater cabled piece will actually be a nice oversized piece. But regardless, I'm still really proud of myself for finishing this. And just simply the way it's constructed is you start with the back panel, then you pick up for the shoulders. Mine isn't like super neat where you pick up for the shoulders, but it's not terrible. And then you knit the front two shoulders, you connect the front panel, you knit for a bit, then you connect everything in the round all the way down. All of the finishing has 2x2 ribbing, which I really like. I like the look of 2x2 ribbing more than 1x1 ribbing. And in order to do the Italian bind off, what I decided to do was I used an Andrea Mowry tutorial on a 2x2 finishing rib. So you do the 2x2 rib until whatever amount you're supposed to do, and then you kind of switch around your stitches for one round and basically turn it into a 1x1 rib, and then you can do a regular sewn bind off, and it just creates this little kind of like slanted edge, I guess, around the rim. But I like it. I think it actually gives it a more, I don't know, interesting little detailed finish, and I don't mind the way it looks. So if you don't like that, in the pattern she just says to do a 2x2 bind off, but I didn't know how to do that and I didn't really want to learn that, so I used this workaround. But you know, to each their own. You can do a 2x2 sewn bind off if you prefer. Otherwise, the chart was like pretty easy to read. It's a very much a popcorn or potato chip knit because each motif has different cabling sequences, I guess. So almost every other round you're pretty much doing a cable. Some people prefer that, some people don't. I personally found it fun because then there was always some sort of cabling thing to look forward to. And about halfway through the sweater, I learned how to do cables without a cable needle, and that really helped increase my speed. So I highly recommend learning how to do cabling without a cable needle, because you really don't need a cable needle to do it, and it's going to make it a lot easier and less fiddly and less tools for you to bring around. And I was just really intimidated by that in the beginning because this is my only second ever cabled piece. But once you get the hang of it, it's just a lot easier, and I became a lot more confident. So yeah, I really liked that I learned that new skill as well. Otherwise, I just really love this sweater. I wouldn't be surprised if I knit it again, this time hopefully to get that oversized look. And I do like the heavy merino yarn with it. I don't like to hold my yarn with any sort of lace weight like alpaca or anything like that, because alpaca just really makes me itchy, and I don't love the fiddliness of having two balls of yarn. So I just always prefer to go with a single stranded yarn, but I think in the actual pattern it calls for maybe like a worsted weight plus a lace weight. But yeah, I really like it, and I think it's super cute, and I cannot wear it. I cannot wait to wear it this winter. Next finished item, I'm not going to go too in depth in because this is my third time knitting this pattern, and I've shared the other two ones that I have on this channel already, but this is another cloud blouse by Petite Knit. This is in the size small, which is the third size up. She, I think at some point had expanded the sizes for this, so I think it goes to XX small to like, I don't know, 4XL or something. But I decided to knit the two sizes up to the small, but same issue with my heart chain sweater. I clearly just didn't realize that in postpartum my tension was getting super tight, because this sweater is also smaller than I had initially thought it coming out to be. I also wanted this to be a slightly more oversized piece, but it fits kind of just well on me, which again, it's not the end of the world, but something was going on with my gauge swatch, or with my tension knitting. I knitted this in the Petite Knit Sandiscarn colorway, so she has her own collaboration with Sandiscarn. So this is Sandiscarn Petite Knit Double Sunday in the color green tea. And I had initially purchased this yarn to do the my favorite knitwear. What? I have not filmed in so long. Sorry, guys. I'm like, my brain is scattered. I think it's like my favorite things knitwear. My favorite knitwear. Okay, sorry. My favorite things sweater number 12, which is also an all over cabled sweater. And I got all the way to being in the round and realized it was just way too small and was not going to fit anyone except maybe my niece. So I decided to frog it entirely. And then at that point, I didn't want to recast it on because I was just so traumatized by knitting the whole, almost like half the sweater. So I just decided to cast on my bread and butter piece, which is like the cloud blouse. I'm very familiar with the construction. I like the construction, and it's an easy knit because you only need one size needle. You don't have to change needle sizes for the ribbing. So that's what I decided to do. It's a drop shoulder knit. It's very simple, very clean. I love the rolled neck edge, and I also love the faux raw hem that you get because you basically do a few rounds of ribbing and then a few rounds of knitting, and it just kind of curls around like this on its own and just looks really polished, yet, I don't know, like kind of boho, I guess. Very cute. And then on the shoulders, there's also this purled detailing. I mean, my German short rows are not the neatest, but there's that purl detailing that continues on the sleeve as well, that again just gives it that more polished look. And this is actually the first time I've knit this pattern in a wool yarn. The two previous ones that I've knit, one I knit in kind of a cotton linen acrylic blend yarn that I got from Michaels, and then the second one I knit was like a 100% acrylic one, and I donated those two pieces already because the yarn just doesn't hold up the same way. I, down the line, would love to re-knit this in that cotton linen blend material. Maybe I'll do like the Sandisgarn cotton. I think they have a cotton linen blend that is a fingering weight, and I'll hold two together, and maybe that'll create a cool texture. I don't know, because I love this design as like a beach pullover, but obviously wool is a little warm for the summer when you would be going to the beach, and you know, it's not the most water friendly. Like if it just gets wet all the time, like it probably just won't be as good, versus the cotton linen one would probably hold up better. So I do plan on re-knitting this again in a larger size in that material, but glad that I have this added to my collection as well now. Moving on to my two whips that I have on the needles currently. First, the one that I'm mainly working on right now is my second Lyon sweater by Petite Knit. I will put a picture of the first one that I ever knit, which follows pretty closely to the sample that she has on her website, which is like the all over white, like the majority of the sweater is white with navy blue stripes. And that I use Knitting for Olive Merino held double. This time I decided to do Sandisgarn Sunday held double instead. And those two yarns I feel like are pretty comparable. And I decided to go with this cool tone gray brown color as the main color with the cream white stripes. And I just think this will add some versatility in my sweater wardrobe. And I like that the darker color is the main color. I think on her website, she has another sample in one of her photos that's also similar to this, where I think it's like a brown and white, but the brown is the main color. And I have a few warmer brown pieces in my wardrobe, but I also really like this cool tone brown color. So the colorway, this one is, let's see, Sandisgarn Sunday in 3880. I don't know what the name is. That's the color for the brown. And then the white one is whipped cream in the Petite Knit colorway. So yeah, I'm really liking how this is turning out. I really like the shoulder construction of this piece. And if you saw my podcast episode where I finished my first Lyon sweater, I mentioned that I really enjoy the fit of it and I would definitely knit it again. So here I am knitting it again. And I did up my needle size because I'm accounting for my tight tension. So Before, when I knit this piece, I used a 4mm needle for the body and then 3.5 for ribbing, but I just upped it by 0.5. So I'm doing 4.5mm needles for the body and 4mm for the ribbing. And I'm liking how it's coming out. It's just a slightly looser knit, so you can see just a little bit through it, but I actually think this will give it a more spring sweater vibe than if you knit it a little tighter. It's definitely more of a thicker, like fall winter vibe. I don't know if that makes sense, but to me, that's just how I think about it, like the weight of it, because it's just slightly billowier. To me, that reads as like more of a spring piece. And yeah, this piece is nice because even with the stripes, you do technically have to manage 2 balls of yarn, but it's not the end of the world because you're knitting, you know, a few rows of each. And I like how the beginning construction is all in one color, so you really don't have to worry about stripes until you're onto the raglan part, which is a lot easier to manage. So I like that. And I also do like the pattern it creates with the, you know, bulkier, like one color up top and then the stripes. It's not just like a fully striped piece. It looks more tailored to me. And now I'm basically on the body, so I'm just knitting in the round, and that's easy for me to pick up and put down, especially when I'm with a baby all day. So sometimes when he's doing some independent play, I sit next to him and knit a few rounds, and then once he gets tired of that, it's not like I have to, you know, be looking at a chart or anything. The next WIP that I had was something that I started when he was a little younger, so he was just sleeping a lot more, so I had more time to be concentrating on a chart, and that is the Book Club Pullover by Sari Nordlund. And this is basically how far I've gotten. I think that I've finished the back panel and I'm basically just waiting to start picking up for the shoulders. This is in the size 3. Her sizes just go by numbers, and I've also accounted for my tension a little bit. So I am still using I'm using a 5mm needle, and I've knitted sizes up. So I'm really hoping this is really gonna be oversized. And I think it is, because even just judging by this back panel, I feel like this is gonna be a nice oversized piece. Compared to the heart chain sweater, this motif is a lot easier to keep track of, and I like that middle kind of diamond motif. If you can't, I can't really see it that well with the lighting. But I like that diamond motif. It's very similar to the heart chain. And then we have these cabled pieces. I guess technically it would be going this way. And that's pretty much it. It's only those 2 motifs that are repeating. It just kind of looks more complicated because they repeat, and you know, but compared to the heart chain, I think that one had like 6 different motifs going at a time, whereas this one is just 2, and then with the moss stitch on the side, so I guess technically 3. But yeah, I know that the cardigan pattern was super popular, and I think she had a knit along with that one, but I just prefer pullovers because I don't like to knit pieces flat for very long. So with the pullover, you know, at some point you obviously get into the round, and I just think that one is just more suited to my wardrobe as well. I really only wear cardigans as like layering pieces. I tend to prefer pullover sweaters for ease and stuff. And the yarn that I'm using is Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino again, and this is in the color Dove Blue. I also really like it. I like that it's a slightly darker color, yet the cabling really still pops with this. And I just love this dusty blue color, and I have a lot of things in my wardrobe that are this color, but I think it really flatters my skin tone. So this is actually the first piece that I've knitted with this kind of blue color, and I'm really enjoying it. I probably will not pick this back up until I finish my Lyon sweater, or until my baby really starts napping well, because then I know I have a set amount of time I can sit down and really read a pattern and things like that. But that's how I usually go with my WIPs. I like to have one piece that's a little more stimulating and harder that I maybe need to read a chart for, and then I have another one that's more mindless, stockinette in the round, and that's how I prefer to balance out my WIPs. Other than that, I don't really have any future plans yet. I don't think I have any other yarn picked out for any other projects. I technically did bring my Cloud Tee with me to China because we were just in China for the whole month of October. However, I really didn't knit on it that much. I thought I was gonna knit on it a lot more often, but I honestly just didn't. When we were out and about, I was obviously taking care of my baby and like trying to translate for my husband and translate for my parents and this and that. So when we were out, I wasn't really knitting that much. And then when we were home, I don't know, like I just didn't sit down and knit all that often. So I really didn't make that much progress on that piece, which is fine. Summer knits to me are just like a time filler for when we're on vacation. So I just have that piece in storage and I really won't bring it out again until we travel somewhere. And the reason I like that is because it's a lot less bulky to bring. Like all the yarn squishes down really small and the needles are also smaller. So I didn't have any issues with bringing it on the plane or checking it either way. So I just tend to think that TSA cares less about like the little needles versus the bigger needles. And yeah, I will obviously update you guys if I ever finish that t-shirt, but that is totally on the back burner. Lastly, if you want more frequent-ish updates from me, then I would recommend following my Instagram because I like to post updates there, and I'm a little more active on there than I am on YouTube because obviously it takes me time to film and edit a video. So would love if you would give me a follow over there. And otherwise, I will see you in my next episode. Bye.